Viewers, very warm welcome to another episode of V News English regular weekly program, which is jointly produced with Stratia The Weekend. Today, we are going to bring an issue which has drawn the concern of the world in the last 3 days. And it seems that South Asia is again descending into a deep crisis. And a lot of concern is being shown around the world in this region. And so, in order to understand its causes, its significance, its reactions, its implications, and possible future scenario. Today, we are going to cover all these aspects with the help of our regular friend, Mr. Murtaza Solangi. Mr. Murtaza Solangi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So let's begin by asking you that most crises which have hit South Asia in the last 38 years. This is the eighth such crisis. But the unique aspect is that it is between two nuclear armed neighbors with a long history of conflicts, crises, and outstanding disputes like Jammu and Kashmir. So let's start by asking you, what's new this time in your view, Murtaza Saab?
The new this time is the way Indian government and Indian media has reacted. If you go back to the terror incident of November 26, 2008, Indians did not show that knee-jerk reaction as we have witnessed in the event that happened 3 days back. I'm sure you know that at the time of this terrorist act, Prime Minister Modi was in Saudi Arabia. And he had to cut his visit short and return to India. And he sent his Home Minister to Srinagar. Even as we are recording this episode, Indian government has not officially accused Pakistan of harboring this terrorist act. All these allegations have come from Indian media. The screaming and shouting voices of talking heads like Arnab Goswami and G.D. Bakshi. So the charge sheet has been rolled out by Indian screaming media. Indian government has not even charge sheeted Pakistan, has produced no evidence to us or to the world, but they have announced a series of punitive action, including putting so-called, quote-unquote, Indus Water Treaty in abeyance. The other sideshows have no consequence, reducing the size of the mission and closing Wagah border, etc. So that's new. And if you ask me, why has this rhetoric without mentioning Pakistan by Modi or other ministers, why are they doing this, including Modi's speech yesterday?
Indeed, I think it's very important. And if you trace the last 7 crises which South Asia has witnessed, starting from brass tacks in 1987, 1990 Kashmir crisis, 1998 nuclear tests, and then the Kargil conflict, followed by a 2001-2 standoff, and then 2007-8 Mumbai crisis, followed by 2019 Pulwama crisis. So this is the eighth such crisis, and I think it is very important that this time a lot has changed. First off, international environment is different. This time, the world seems polarized. International institutions seem weak. And if you look at the international community, it seems to be preoccupied with the Ukraine and Gaza conflict. Ultra-nationalism seems to be dominating the politics and policies of major powers. So it seems that when Mr. Modi returned to New Delhi, he was briefed by Mr. Jaishankar and Ajit Doval, who are themselves ideologically hawks in the BJP camp. They perhaps miscalculated this international environment as offering a possible window of opportunity for India to, achieve and inflict what they have hoped to do. A few years ago, if you recall, in a famous statement, Modi said that blood and water cannot flow together. So it proves that what has happened 2 days ago is not just something out of the blue, but it was on their minds, and they were looking for a pretext or an opportunity to implement what they wanted to do, because our experience with the Indus Water Treaty, which is 65 years old, despite our dependence on it and despite our optimism of its future, its experience is not very pleasant, Mr. Solangi. And Pakistan has faced dozens of episodes in which water was stopped or diverted during the sowing season, and the floodgates were opened during the monsoon season. So this is a national habit of India for the last 78 years. So using water as a weapon to harm Pakistan's society, economy is not something new. But what is different this time is that they have formally, through their Ministry of External Affairs, announced the holding of abeyance this treaty, which Pakistan has timely corrected, is a clause which does not exist in the text of the treaty. Therefore, it is not a right or option that either India or Pakistan has or can exercise. That's my initial thought.
Yes, anybody who has.
I want you to expand on the reactions that initially have been witnessed from around the world before we come to South Asia and discuss how the region is witnessing it.
Yes. Would you want me to talk about the reactions around the world?
Yes. Yes. Whatever international reactions you've heard, can you just briefly identify before we move to the regional and domestic reactions?
If I want to summarize the reactions, mostly it has been the condemnation of the terrorist attack from US to UK to EU to Russian Federation, even Pakistan. So there has been a global condemnation, which should have been by any responsible country.
Can you briefly explain what was Pakistan's initial reaction, just for the record?
In the morning following this terror incident, Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressed condolences with the families of the terror victims and condemned that terror incident, and reiterated Pakistan's policy that Pakistan condemns all kind of terrorist activities around the globe, because Pakistan has been historically a victim of terrorism.
Right, right. Now let's come to the region. How do you briefly compare the mood and the public sentiment and the political dynamic which can be witnessed in New Delhi and Islamabad?
Well, as soon as this terror incident happened, there were genuine questions uh, inside India that this meadow in Pahalgam is around 400 kilometers away from a line of control uh, dividing Pakistan and India. Um, and India has around 700,000 security forces just in Jammu and Kashmir. And the security forces, their CRPF, were not too far away. How come this meadow was left unprotected for that period of time when this terror incident happened? Let's suppose that there were terrorists who crossed line of control, even if you believe it for a moment. It takes them a long time to come to that valley. And in order to conduct such terror operation, you need a lot of preparation, logistics. That's an area where you can only go by foot or by ponies. So that shows a massive intelligence failure on part of Indian state that's solely responsible after the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A in 2019. Then if you go and look at the FIR that has come out today, that was lodged, the time of terror incident reported in the FIR is different from what was reported by Indian media. Indian media has been vociferously saying that the terrorists checked everybody, asked them for the identification, and then shot them dead. The FIR says just the opposite. The terrorists came and they just indiscriminately fired guns and killed people. So a lot of questions about the claims of Indian security forces were blown away by the questions raised in India. Instead of answering those questions, the easiest way was to blame Pakistan, and that route was adopted through Indian jingoistic media. So far, the Indian screaming media has been the judge, the jury, and the executioner. So that has what has happened. But after these incidents, when the day before yesterday, Indian Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri announced these punitive actions, what has happened in India and what Pakistan decided after the National Security Committee meeting. The announcement of India to hold Indian Indus Water Treaty in abeyance, we have to see how they implement it, because it doesn't look like it's implementable. even at home, let alone fighting the legal case, because India has no case. So even Indian experts are saying that this announcement is a hogwash, because India does not have the wherewithal, the technical resources, and has not calculated the implications, how they will do this. But Pakistani actions announced are already biting India by closing the airspace. We have more Indian airlines passing Pakistani airspace westward, going to Central Asia, going to Europe, going to America. And the economic cost of these diversions would run Indian civil aviation bankrupt. And this would be fully utilized by other airlines of the Gulf as well as other countries. If you check the stats of the Indian stock market for 2 days in a row, it's going south. So I don't think this tension is sustainable even for India. But in larger geo-economic terms, as you follow those developments very closely, the economic wars that have ensued and have actually been jacked up after Mr. Trump, there was a possibility of India taking advantage out of it and replacing China as a manufacturing hub, and more economic fruits coming to India. But if your country is going to war with its neighbor, which happens to be a nuclear neighbor, who in their right mind will think of investing in India? If you remember, in 2008, India had to finally back down and retreat on its tensions with Pakistan when Western firms started leaving India. So the longer implications for this tension actually go against India rather than Pakistan.
That's a very, I think, comprehensive analysis, Mr. Solangi. And if I were to briefly add 3 points to it, that if we look at the first 48 hours of this emerging Indo-Pakistan crisis, and we look at the 4 domains of lawfare, diplomacy, economics, and security, then it seems that after the first days of unilateral actions announced by the Secretary of Indian Ministry of External Affairs, it seems that after Pakistan National Security Committee met, the response by Pakistan indicated a source of escalation dominance in all these 4 domains in the first 48 hours. In terms of the lawfare, since the announcement was basically tantamount to violation of the Indus Water Treaty, which is a bilateral treaty brokered by World Bank, Pakistan rightly pointed out that the text of the Indus Water Treaty does not offer an option or clause to either side to hold it in abeyance. Therefore, this right or option does not exist with India or Pakistan, number one. Secondly, if at all India wants to do it physically or legally, Pakistan will respond in kind in both domains. Legally, if they were to violate this treaty, then Pakistan will reconsider all bilateral treaties with India, including Simla Accord, which represents the diplomatic victory for India after the 1971 war, in which Pakistan reluctantly conceded that ceasefire line should be considered as a line of control. And this is the aspiration of the most Kashmiris living on both sides of the line of control, which that this artificial line has divided their families and allowed India to consolidate their military occupation in the Indian occupied Kashmir. So if the Pakistan is given this opportunity to do away with the line of control, then it will be welcomed by Kashmiris on both sides, and it will weaken the political and legal uh, justification of Indian control and occupation of Indian occupied Kashmir. That's the legal dimension. Let's come to the physical dimension. Now, if India, as you rightly pointed out, currently does not have the capacity to stop or divert the waters of the three main rivers flowing to Pakistan under the Indus Water Treaty, but if it were to do so, Pakistan has given a very clear, unambiguous, and timely strategic signal that any instrument, base, facility, or weapon system which is used to divert or stop Pakistani national right and national lifeline, which sustains 240 million Pakistanis, then Pakistan will use all its elements of national power, full spectrum of its power potential to protect its national security and national interests. So that is the physical response. I think in the political dimension, it has actually come as a good opportunity for Pakistan, a blessing in disguise. We are tired of discussing domestic politics in the last 2.5 years. And thankfully, I must appreciate Mr. Modi for allowing Pakistani political parties, despite their criticism of the government and differences and ambition to return to power, they were forced to stand by Pakistan Armed Forces and national leadership and putting aside all their differences. So thank you, Mr. Modi, for allowing all Pakistani political forces to join hand and look at you rather than with each other. So in the political dimension, this has also come as a blessing in disguise. In the economic dimension, you have also rightly pointed out that the economic damage that this unilateral illegal Indian action will cause India will be costlier. The initial assessment is $50 million per month will be the loss to the Indian aviation industry, which will mean if it runs for 6 months, it will be $3 billion. Secondly, it will affect their transit trade, their trade routes and everything. So the longer it persists, the longer and the more money and losses India's economy will suffer. And I think in the kinetic domain, let me stop short by saying that after 6 years of the Pulwama crisis, today Pakistan's Air Force, Navy, Army, and strategic forces are much more ready, much more well armed, much more aware, and much more capable. So, and you know very well, Lieutenant General Syed Munir was DGISI 6 years ago, and we showed a patient, magnanimous face under General Bajwa. But today, General Munir is Army Chief. He has served as Commander of FCNA. He knows Kashmir very well. And I don't think this time Pakistan will be patient. And if India attempts any misadventure, I think this time they will receive a more effective and costly and embarrassing response.
I just have to add a couple of things on the water issue. You know, under all international covenants, India can't do what it's planning to do, being the upper riparian to Pakistan, that's lower riparian. That's a universal thing. This kind of action is called war crime, penalizing civilian population. But for a minute, let's suppose India has the wherewithal, the technology, the resources to divert the waters of its western rivers that feed into Pakistan, the Indus, the Chenab, and the Jhelum. one must not forget that most of Indian rivers, including Brahmaputra and Indus and others, start in Tibet, in China, and some in Nepal. India today, who was on a mission to isolate Pakistan, is the most isolated country. It has troubles with every neighboring country, starting with China. It has troubles with Nepal. It has troubles even with Maldives, that far away. It has troubles with Bangladesh. It has troubles with Sri Lanka and Pakistan. Everybody knows about it. So Pakistan has this treaty with India that cannot be abrogated by either side. It does not have any treaty with China. And if China decided to divert the waters, imagine the technical capacity of India and China, how long it would take China to make tunnels and divert the water and make dams. It would be fraction of the time. And this cannot be done in the global order, how much fractured it is today. Many European rivers start in Russia. Imagine if Russia does that. Same is in Africa. So this is, this so-called 56-inch chhati, the 56-inch waist Modi. He can huff and puff, but it's not easier to do that. And it would only hurt India rather than hurting Pakistan. And I think Pakistan has so far, Pakistani media and Pakistan statecraft has held a very responsible position instead of threatening tone and this language that's derogatory. We have held the ground.
I think, Murtaza, this is a very important note on which we are going to end this program. And I'll just briefly add that I hope that all our friends, all level-headed, reasonable military officers, politicians, academics, scholars, and politicians in India advise their leadership to be responsible and not do something which can affect the peace, security, stability of this entire region, but also India's own security, prosperity, and stability. And I'm sure all our mutual friends around the world must also urge, particularly Indian leadership and media, to exercise caution. This is a unique environment because Kashmir is surrounded by three nuclear emerging superpower and the only Muslim nuclear power. So fiddling with the two is not a viable, rational option at a time when this region, at a time of connectivity, changing world order, offers new hope and opportunity. 2 billion of this South Asian region. I think they deserve a more responsible statecraft. Thank you so much for joining us.